Hello friends, welcome to Christian Content Videos. My name is Prasanna Jangam. I'm a Christian apologist. Today I'm going to be preaching about one of the sermons from the series, the Content series. And today's topic is, what is contentless preaching? Contentless preaching is preaching without content in a sermon. Contentless preaching is preaching without the explanation of the meaning of the Word of God in a sermon, without at least a minimum of 40 sentences of explanation of the meaning of the Word of God. There are various types of contentless preachings. Hopefully I'll speak on them and write on them. But for now I'll deal with one of the styles of contentless preachings and how it looks like. This is mainly for people who want to be wannabe ministers, who want to be future ministers, future preachers, and who are preparing currently and who have plans of preparing for ministry in the future. Like I've said, there are various types of contentless preachings. Today I'm going to be discussing about one of the most fake style of contentless preaching that pretends to be like a contented preaching. At the same time, it's also very hard to find out that it is a contentless preaching because of the form it has, because of the appearance it has. So this is the preaching type which does not have complete stories for 80-90% of the time of the sermon, and then come up with a punchline of a concluded theological statement which is base level, which is a surface level statement, and conclude the sermon. So this is not that type, but throughout the sermon this kind of preaching maintains the preaching rate or maintains the content to be a biblical content, to sound like a biblical content, to speak only on things which are in the Bible. But at the same time it's not content, but at the same time it's not explanation of the Word of God, thick and heavy, not at least past 2 to 3 sentences, not at least past 4 to 5 sentences on a single topic, which are base level content lines which anyone can fetch, which anyone can know by themselves. This kind of preaching, preacher starts off with a Bible verse and try to speak on it for a few seconds, for 10-15 seconds, for 4 to 5 sentences and few words here and there, and past 2 to 5 sentences after that the content preaching starts. And before even getting to half of the beginning of the content preaching is, and the beginning phase of the content preaching is, that is the first 5 to 10 sentences out of the 40 minimum contented sentences for a sermon to sound and look like and to be called a contented preaching. So that preacher doesn't even get to the first 10 sentences, but ends the first topic with 2 to 5 sentences of the beginning lines of contented preaching, which is not content in itself, and then escapes and goes on to a different topic within the Bible, wherein he does not have to speak on the testimonies or examples or stories outside or stories related to the topic, and he can get into a different biblical topic, pick a different verse, and again start to preach on it for 10-20 seconds or 2 to 5 sentences and speak on it for a while. And those sentences, the first 2 to 5 sentences, are not content in themselves because they are the beginning level content lines. And after that he continues to do that for good 10 times throughout the sermon, and few words here and there, and probably stress on few things. And yeah, it's all about persona, it's all about the appearance of a contented preacher. He does that for good 10 times in a sermon, and that will make a 40 minutes of sermon, 40-45 minutes of a sermon. And after that, without even explanation being included in the sermon, being preached in a sermon, a preacher can escape with the image that he only spoke on the Word of God. And to some, while the sermon is being preached, it even sounds like everything he's preaching is from the Bible, everything he preaches is content or must be content. He can even make an image of a contented preacher when he or she preaches that kind of a sermon. because it lacks depth, it lacks heaviness, it lacks thickness. After the feel that sermon creates in human minds and the listeners' minds, because it lacks heaviness, it falls off after some time, and at the same time it's just a few basic level lines that they've been able to listen to. So this is not a preacher that one should look like. So obviously this kind of content comes from the desire to be a contented preacher, the liking of the image or the desire to look like a contented preacher. They like the image of being a contented preacher, treated like a contented preacher. But at the same time, maybe because of the limitations in life, probably, or maybe just because not being able to work hard, put in good time to amass some weight in their theological explanations, and they come up with these kind of styles, mainly this kind of style, to look like and maybe sometimes it is even possible to pretend like a contented preacher and get away with it, maintaining the image of a contented preacher. So this is something that a new wannabe preacher doesn't want to look like, and I think a new wannabe preacher shouldn't look like this kind of a preacher, because it's not healthy for the listener. It's not even good for the preacher himself, because things are going to fall off after some time, and it's hard to maintain the image after the sermon is preached, and after some time after the sermon is preached. So the new preachers, because the times have changed today, we are too different from our seniors in ministries. They had their own different challenges, different times, different ways of access to information, definitely unlike others, definitely unlike us or the preachers who are preparing for ministry now. So if you are a preacher who want to be, if you are a person who want to be a preacher in the future, make sure you get yourself heavy and make yourself able to be able to speak on a topic for with at least 40 sentence thickness of content in a sermon. That way you can survive yourself in ministry, because people are not too way behind the preacher's information. That is one of the reasons one needs to be a contented preacher these days. It's just not enough to have the idea of grandeur, the respect, the honor that a contented preacher receives, but also a wannabe preacher must have the will to work hard on gathering information, on gathering capabilities of explanation, on adding to his explanation capabilities some good weight, so that he doesn't become a contentless preacher. So friends, contentless preaching in simple statement is preaching without content, or preaching without the explanation of the meaning of the word of God in a sermon, not meeting the minimum content preaching requirements to be able to be called a contented preacher. So friends, this is what contentless preaching is. I hope you have learned something new today. Please like and share this video. If you are new here, or if you haven't subscribed already, please make sure you subscribe to this channel, and please click on the bell icon to get notified whenever I post something. Thank you for watching this video. God bless us all.